What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for joining us on yet another episode for Walking Manifestor. And in this journey, we have a goal to help you awaken your highest self, embrace and embody your higher consciousness, a transformation journey with the Walking Manifestor that you already are. With that being said, I am your host, Alexa Pena, and today we have a super fun episode that is going to really change the way you perceive your reality. With that being said, let's dive deep. Thank you so much for joining us today on another episode for Walking Manifestor. And with that being said, I want to talk about something that lately has been on my mind. And to be quite honest, I feel like most people don't talk about this, and that is imposter syndrome. So I was actually listening to a podcast not too long ago by Mel Robbins. For those of you that do not know who she is a speaker, an author, influencer, and she was talking about a conversation that she essentially had with her daughter. And the daughter is on this journey of wanting to basically become a musician. Well, as that was unfolding and they were talking about a situation that her daughter was in, essentially she shared how the daughter went to this event and she felt really out of place. Now, mind you, this is coming from a person that has a mom that is extremely successful. Arguably, she is one of the best motivational female speakers. And this really is something that got me thinking that, okay, there's this person that has a mom that's an incredible badass and is essentially going to this place that is surrounded by a bunch of amazing artists, right? So she's there and she's feeling really left out. She's feeling like she's just out of place. She's feeling like she doesn't belong there. She was in the backstage. So essentially she's saying how she didn't feel really worthy of being in that position based off the fact that she was not an artist in her eyes, right? She felt as if these people that were there had earned the right to be there, and she felt like an imposter. Now, as she goes on, she's talking about how she came to the realization that she was going to make the best out of it, right? She essentially had some drinks and loosened up and started talking to people. As she started talking to people, she was able to really connect with people that got her in alignment with, number one, just feeling more comfortable, being vulnerable and sharing that she was not actually yet what you would consider a quote unquote, I'm doing quotation marks for those of you listening to it on Apple or on Spotify. But essentially, she realized that her not being labeled as an artist was actually not the end of the world. And in that moment, she decided, I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to talk to these people, be myself, and learn as much as I can while I'm here. And this is what I really want to talk about today, because if I'm being completely honest, and this is the whole purpose of the show, right? It's to be vulnerable, but at the same time to grow with one another. And I believe for most of us, we have limiting beliefs to a certain extent. Now, you might sit here and lie to yourself in the mirror and say you're perfect, but the reality is that you can't lie to yourself, right? Even if you're the most positive person in the world, even if you're the person that is just overall very confident with your skin, with, your knowledge, with your car, your house, whatever it might be, as humans, we are designed to have this double-ended sword where we don't want to care what people think, but at the same time, we want to fit in. And at the same time, we want to be independent, but then yet we still want to be surrounded by people that we love. And you can sit here and say, because I've done it myself, so I'm not pointing the finger by no means, but you can sit there and say no, I don't care if I fit in or not. No, I don't care what people think or not. But the reality is that is a human trait within us. And when we don't have that, we feel very isolated. We feel very just lost. And this is something that for me, imposter syndrome really resonates with. When I first started in real estate, I remember seeing these badasses in the industry, right? People that I admired based off the years that they had been in real estate, based off the experience that they had, based off the connections that they had, based off the money that they had. Just everything that in my context of success would fall under them being successful, right? So when I was surrounding myself around these people, when I first started, I remember feeling very lost. I remember feeling very unworthy to a certain point because I wanted to provide the best possible service to clients that I yet had to meet, right? I hadn't met these people, but I just wanted to provide the best I possibly could with the tools that I had. I was not rich. I was not by no means where I wanted to be. I was, very young, and I was just really trying to fit in, quote unquote, in an area where I didn't feel like I did. And as I went on through my journey, I remember there was a lot of very, I don't want to call them ugly people, but just people that were not the nicest, right? People that they feel like you need to earn your place to be in that field. And, they don't really want to share with you information. They kind of give you the approach of figure it out or get out. And I think that's really interesting because there's two perspectives to that. And a lot of the times we feel like if you're looking to embark on a new journey, like figure it out, like you do it, don't ask for any help and just do it yourself. But then you have the opposite side, and that's people that have succeeded that genuinely want to pay it forward. I was recently interviewing some new people for our agency, for our real estate agency, and I was having a conversation with them, and it was so inspiring to talk to people that didn't even see the potential that they had within them. But yet, the fact that somebody at one point saw the potential that I had that I didn't even see within myself reminded me of that moment where I was looking at this person that was telling me that they just wish they could make $30,000 a year. And as I'm looking at them, I'm like, you can do a lot more than that. Like, we can give you the tools for you to grow and really become the best version of yourself, because money is simply a tool, number one, but it's an energy. It's an energetic alignment to where you're at in your life. So if you have, and we've talked about this in another episode, if you haven't watched Limiting Beliefs, highly recommend you watch that. But essentially, we have beliefs around things in life. We give them meaning, right? If it rains on your wedding day, you're going to label it as either good or bad. Depending on your culture, depending on your background, you're either going to say, oh my gosh, my wedding is ruined, or oh my gosh, how beautiful. The universe is literally pouring over us and giving us abundance, right? The reality is that we give perspective to situations, we give meanings, we give labels based on things that we identify with. And the interesting part about this is that sometimes all it takes is somebody seeing something in you that you don't even see in yourself. When we talk about imposter syndrome, the reality is that something is very interesting there. How can you be an imposter in something that you are starting completely new in? Like, just think about it. If you were going to start driving, would you be considered an imposter because it's your first time going to driving school? No, right? Like, what are you talking about, Alexa? Like, I'm new to this. I'm not an imposter. Like, this is my first time coming to driving school. This is why I'm here, because I want to get my license to drive. If you were going to go to high school, right? Maybe high school is a bad example because, the big kids, if you're a freshman, are probably going to look at the person that's a freshman like you're new. But the reality is, if we just use it as like a whole context of school, you're not going to be an imposter for going to school to learn something that you're there to learn. No, you're considered a student, right? You're going there to learn a craft to become whatever you're looking to become, right? For some of us, we have perspectives of school. For some others, we feel very differently about school. But at the end of the day, it's something that, it's deemed necessary for you to embark on your journey. Now, there's different approaches to that, but we won't get into that on this episode. But the reality is that you wouldn't be considered an imposter. If you were looking to start something new, you would simply be that. Looking to start something new in a new field, in a new relationship, in a new journey. And you see, most people, we get so consumed by what are people going to think? Am I really going to reach my full potential? What if I fail? What if I am unable to obtain this success? We get so stuck on how we're perceived that we get paralysis analysis. And if you've never heard of that, it's basically the idea of somebody analyzing something multiple times in different angles and different perspectives until the point where you don't do anything. You literally are paralyzed in this analysis phase. And imposter syndrome is super important to identify because it's like that cliche saying that says, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I don't think it's cliche. People consider it cliche, but I think it's true. You are never going to get closer to your desired outcome if you're not trying. And how can you be an imposter in something that you're actually trying to become better in? You see, if I would have allowed my limiting beliefs at the time when I first started in real estate hold me back, I would still be, working at a 9-to-5, hating my current circumstance at that time, feeling unworthy, feeling unhappy, and just feeling like I was living a life purposeless. And this is the interesting part. For most of us, we get so stuck on this analysis paralysis phase that we rather not try at all because of the fear of what people are going to say. And I'm going to share with you something that's really helped me in my journey of manifestations, because a lot of people think oh my gosh, there you go. I was talking to this person. I don't want to give too much details about it, but I was talking to this person that you can tell he really does not believe much in the manifestations. And that's totally okay, because I'm not here to change your opinion. I am simply here to give you my opinion based off what has worked for me, right? So as I'm talking to this person, he's really quizzing me, it kind of felt like, and why do you think, manifestations work? And why is it that you feel like people can benefit from manifestations? And what does your coaching program talk about? So he's asking me a bunch of questions, right? And I basically tell him part of my story. And I just tell him look, the opposite of this mindset that I have now was very dark and negative. The reason why I can attest to what I have seen in my life is because I can't just explain to you based off a theory, based off a book that I read. I can physically feel these things that have changed in my body because of the energy that I now portray. When people tell me oh my gosh, I just feel so uplifted after that conversation that we had together because you gave me perspective. That is such a beautiful feeling, but it doesn't come from just a book I read. It comes from experience. When you go through a conversation with somebody, you can automatically tell when somebody's been through something that you're telling them, or maybe they're just full of, shit and they're lying to you. But the reality is that most people have this sixth sense. We just ignore it, right? It's our gut instinct. And you can feel when somebody's being authentic with you. You can feel when somebody's just being truthful. Sometimes you feel the opposite, that they're being deceitful with you, but you ignore it for whatever reason. And the reason that was really interesting when I was having that conversation with this person is because you can tell that as I was having these conversations with him, it was doing something internally. He was resonating with some of the messages, but he was so stuck on his perspective of reality, in his perception, in his paradigm. And for those of you that haven't heard the past episodes, basically your paradigm is a series of events that have almost exclusive control over your habitual behavior. So things that have happened in your life that control who you identify as today. And when this happens, there's contrast in your life. So if you grew up with parents that had a very limiting belief around money, then more than likely you're somebody to grow up resenting money. Either you get so obsessed with it that that becomes your end all be all, or you don't want anything to do with it. And you see, it's like a pendulum, right? It's too far left, too far right, you are completely off balance. It's finding this sweet spot in between what is in alignment with you. And imposter syndrome is exactly that. When we're in a situation where we feel unworthy, when we're in a situation where we look ourselves in the mirror and we say, you're full of shit, you're not going to do it. You say you're going to go to the gym, but you stop yourself every time that you're going to go and you watch your Netflix episode. You say you're going to eat healthier, but yet here you are stopping at Whataburger again. You said you were going to read that book, but yet here you are stuck doing the same things that you said you weren't going to do. Little things like this, what it does is that it starts playing a role in your character, in your image of who you see yourself as. And when you continue to let yourself down, you're not letting anybody else down but you. Now, maybe those around you that are seeing this happen might be in a way affected, but the only person that's truly affected is you. Because every time you don't follow through with something you said you were going to do, your self-conscious is taking note of that. So the next time you tell yourself, oh, I'm going to read that book, your self-conscious is like, yeah, right. They never do it. We're going to go to the gym. Yeah, right. We never do that. I'm going to go for that promotion. Yeah, right. I'm going to be I'm going to make over 100,000 this year. Sure. All of these things are coming from a limiting belief. And the reason why you have those limiting beliefs is because you haven't created the self-confidence. And the reason you haven't created the self-confidence is because you keep breaking the same promises that you keep making to yourself. You see, most people, they talk about New Year resolutions and New Year, new me. And this year I'm going to manage my time better and I'm going to block time more efficiently. None of those things matter until you change your mindset. You see, there's successful people that wake up at 5 a.m. and there's successful people that wake up at 12 p.m. There are successful people that read over 100 books a year. There are successful people that read 5 books a year. There are successful people that, had a lot of advantages at the beginning of their career. There's a lot of successful people that didn't have a lot of advantages at the beginning of their career. Success looks different for everybody. But one thing that everybody can agree on, and you can go and do your own research, your mindset is the number one thing you need in order for you to truly succeed. Like, that's the reality. If you don't have the right mindset, no system I give you, no time blocking, no affirmation, no meditation, no nothing is going to work because your mindset is not in alignment. Now, by having the right mindset and taking inspired actions, this is how you really create this dynamic duo that is unstoppable. You see, a lot of people think that people that are positive are always like this. Like, people tell me, I heard one friend tell me, I don't picture you as somebody that even cries. And I laughed and I was like, girl, I've cried and I get frustrated. I cry too if you pinch me. I have feelings. Just because you see me happy doesn't mean I'm just happy-go-lucky all the time. We're humans. But the thing here is learning how to control your emotions, learning how to really control your responsibility. That really blew my mind when I read it, because the reality is that responsibility is simply your responsibility, your ability to respond to things in your life. Imposter syndrome is simply coming from the fear of you feeling like you're not worthy of what you're going after. So you might feel like, why am I going to ask that girl out? She's probably going to say no. She's so beautiful. Why would she go out with me? Or maybe the opposite, right? You're a girl that thinks really highly of a guy, but you don't want to say anything because you are afraid of rejection. You see, I'd rather put myself out there for the person that I feel could be an energetic match for me and completely get, curved, but have tried. So if I died tomorrow, at least I died knowing that I tried. And that's something that Most people don't have the ability to say when it comes to their business, to their kids, to the traveling that they want to do. Most people think it's better to play it safe. And playing it safe only does one thing, and that's lead you to a life of feeling unfulfilled. And this is where, if you can take anything away from today's podcast, because this is something that I feel like a lot of people, like, we consume so much information, but it's not about what you consume, is what you actually implement that changes you. So if you could take one thing today, is go after that thing that makes you fearful. You see, for me, starting this podcast was just very like, should I do this? Like, do I have the right things that I can share? Or, oh my gosh, there's somebody out there that could speak a lot better than me. Like, why would people want to listen to me? And I caught all of those being limiting beliefs. And if you believe in energy, what you put energy to is what you're going to receive back. So I caught myself and I was like, Alexa, like, you're in this material, you read this, you've seen it work in your life. Like, negative thoughts, you acknowledge them, you see them, but we're going to move past them because we're going to focus on how everything could go, not how you're thinking everything is going to go in the negative connotation of things. You're going to focus on the positivity, and you're going to put the best foot forward out there. And people that are in alignment with this material are going to resonate with the material. I'm not trying to reach the entire world. I'm trying to reach the people that want to grow. I'm trying to reach the people that want personal development, that want to learn more about their behaviors, and that overall are looking to develop their overall life, right? Because in order for you to attract more into your life, you need to become a higher and better version of who you are. So if there's one thing that you want to take away today, is to go toward that thing that makes you fearful. Not sitting there all day and doing affirmations, not sitting there all day and doing your journaling and your meditations. Although those things are super important, they are, because they do help. The reality is that until you don't actually believe that you can, by getting very comfortable doing the uncomfortable, you're never going to break free from that pattern. You're going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over and expect a different result, but it's just never going to happen. So with that being said, remember that you truly can achieve anything you set your mind to. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will forever dictate your life, and you will call it faith. With that being said, I want to thank you so much for joining me in another episode. Thank you for all of the support. And remember, you are guided, you are connected, and you are divinely protected. Remember to awaken to your highest version of who you already are. You need to visualize, embody, transcend, and be the walking manifestator that you are born to be. Sending you many blessings, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one.